Well, Troy, thanks for agreeing to meet with me today. So I'm here with Troy Shimkus, who is a candidate for mayor of Deltona. And so let's kind of start with some basics. Just kind of tell me, where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? What do your friends and family think about your decision to run for mayor?
Thanks, Terry. So I grew up in South Florida, born and raised in the West Palm Beach area. I went to school down there. I did my undergraduate at UCF, and my master's degree came from Florida State University. So I'm kind of all about Florida. I've been here my whole life. When I first told my parents and some friends I was running for mayor, I got a lot of that, "Are you serious?" Because it's a big decision, and
Yes.
It's not something I ever really talked to anyone about, so it wasn't something that they had expected from me. It was just kind of a, what brought that on kind of a question for most people. But I've been in Florida my whole life. This is the first home I've bought, and so I'm looking forward to getting involved as much as possible.
Okay, well, I'm sure that they were very surprised, because I know that your career is pretty much in music, and I believe that you have a degree in music education.
That is correct. I got both my undergrad and my master's, both are in music education. I started in my career as a high school band director up in Mount Dora, Lake County Schools. Enjoyed it very much, and then kind of transitioned into tech stuff for the schools. I trained teachers on technology, using in the classroom, things of that nature. But my whole education, my whole kind of upbringing, and my philosophies all came from being a teacher and being specifically a band director and what that means. So.
Okay, and in your role as a teacher and a band director, can you explain a little bit more about how you would transition that into your role as mayor of Deltona?
Absolutely. So band directing is a very unique thing. Teachers are wonderful people all across the board, but when you talk about a band program, it's a really unique niche of teaching, because we see these kids more than anybody else in the school. We've got, we have the kids, as a high school band director, I started working with kids as low as 6th grade because they were feeding into my program, so it was a long-term investment, if you will.
Right.
So I saw the same kids for multiple years, and when they got to my program, we have band trips, and we have football games, and we have rehearsals, we have all these things that we're doing as a band program, and we spend a lot of time together as a family, if you will, in a band program, and it's very important to build that camaraderie, to build that idea that we all work together, that we all do things together. And as a band director, in the teaching world, it's a very unique position also, because you have a lot of diverse stakeholders, I think is the best term to use here. I walk into a program and I have to meet the needs not only of my professional career, my professional responsibilities, but the students have needs, their parents have needs, the school, other teachers have needs of the program, the administration has goals, and then there's also the community. When you're in a high school band program, especially in a small town like Mount Dora, the community requires things of that band program. So as a director, I have to meet the needs of all these diverse stakeholders in one way or another, and they're not always the same. So a lot of my career was working with these different groups of people to help them understand that we will get to everyone's needs as much as we can, but it's going to take cooperation. It's going to take some give and take to get there. And that's a big part of being a band director in general, is to make those compromises, those things happen between those different stakeholders.
Well, that's a very unique position, and that's not something that I think everybody would really recognize and associate, but I could absolutely understand how that would be very beneficial to you, as in your role as mayor. So just talk a little bit to me about what your vision is for Deltona. I know that on your website you are using Inform, Include, and Inspire as part of your, I guess, your vision per se. So can you talk to me about that and tell me, what do you think is right about Deltona? What do you think is wrong about Deltona? Give me a little bit more information about that.
Yeah, so my slogan, the Inform, Include, Inspire slogan, is more than just words to me. It's basically how I live my life. I think a lot of things come down to having the right information, including everyone who's affected by a decision in that decision, and inspiring those people to be part of that decision, making sure that if you are impacted, that you have the opportunity to be part of that. My vision really boils down to getting the people of Deltona to be involved in their government again. We need to make sure that the government here understands that they work for the people, and they need to do that in a more inclusive way. I keep seeing conversations before I decided to run that didn't really have that in mind. It was us versus them. It was very divisive, and I wanted to see more cooperation happen. When I talk about the inform idea, it's this whole idea of data being so critical to making those decisions. And what's right about Deltona is that we have a lot of that data here. We have a hugely diverse population here between people who are just buying the first home, getting started, developing professionals, retired people. That comes with a wealth of experience. And as a government, if we rely on the people in our community to bring their experience to the table, and we open the government doors to those people and include them, inspire them to come in and give us their information, share their experience with us, we can make better choices. We can make better decisions that impact everybody. So my entire vision is really to fix all of the small, not so small, big problems, whatever problem we have in Deltona. To fix those is going to require, first and foremost, getting the people to come back to the table. And that doesn't happen if the government doesn't invite them to come back to the table.
Okay. So getting people back to the table, that sounds to me like it's going to take some changes.
Absolutely.
In this city. So what would you do different? What would it look like for you to be mayor of Deltona? Tell me about that.
So I think there are several initial changes I think that we can do right away that have low impact personally, but can have a huge impact in the city. One of those things is the workshops the city has, the commission has. I want to see these workshops be more conversationally based, meaning get the commissioners off the dais, come to a table, invite the community to come to that table and have a conversation about the issues. The workshop can't be limited to you get 2 minutes if and only if we happen to have time at the end. It has to start with, first and foremost, the people that come, what are you looking for? What do you need? And that has to open every conversation. Once we reform these workshops and we get to have those conversations that can change what we're going to do, I want to look at making sure every meeting we have is live streamed through social media. For a lot of reasons, people can't come to meetings. And the TV station, I don't have cable, I don't get TV. The streaming site is kind of hit or miss because, as we heard, there's a lot of problems with internet connectivity in some areas.
And some people can't even afford internet. They
Exactly.
don't even have internet.
And that's a huge eye opener as well. And I think, while we can make sure we make the commission meetings available in more streams, maybe if you don't have internet, you can get with some friends and have a Facebook party. We can open up the library during these times and different times to have showings. We can do a lot of things that way. But I think if we start by live streaming the Facebook and the social media, all these meetings, we can now invite more people to respond in real time. Because the Facebook Live, you get those little emotions that people get, the happy face, the up, thumbs down, whatever. And we can use that to some level to inform our decisions. I mean, if we're having a conversation that's getting a lot of negative review on Facebook, we might, as a commission, want to stop for a moment and redirect ourselves, re-understand what we're looking at. I don't know, if we can immediately incorporate Facebook comments into a meeting, because that's a whole level of technology that's different. But at the very least, we can open up that stream and invite those comments in real time to get more people involved. And then another thing is the Sunshine Law is very important. It's very critical to making sure that government stays open, but it can also be a prohibitive thing in some ways, because I think we expect a lot of information and a lot of discussion to happen in a very short amount of time in these meetings.
Yes.
And so I think one idea I've had is, don't know what to call it yet, but maybe a safe speech zone or a safe, commission meeting zone, or however you want
or a communication zone,
Exactly.
something like that.
But I think because you have to have a meeting that's put out there in time, noticed, if you will, in enough days. If we have a standing appointment just for instance, Tuesdays, that the commission hall is open to any commissioners who want to come and discuss an opportunity or discuss an issue or a topic, and the public is more than welcome, and those are reported and recorded, then we have more time for the community and the commissioners to kind of have those conversations about the topics on the agendas that need to be discussed more thoroughly than what is allowed in just a few hours of a meeting. And so if we have that standing appointment, it may never be used for 3 weeks, but then that fourth week, maybe some critical components come up, and we already have it ready, willing to go. We don't have to figure out, oh, now we have to renotice a new meeting and do all the setup. It's already on the books, ready to go. And I think that we can take advantage of that by using that kind of standing town hall, maybe, if you will.
So it sounds like a lot of the things that you're looking into for Deltona are more proactive rather than reactive. And so just in thinking about being proactive, have you thought about development plans for the city? What kind of development plans we maybe don't have in place today that we need to either put in place, or maybe even plans that we actually do have it, but we need to maybe start enforcing some things?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously development is important for any city's growth, and Deltona is part of that as well. Over the last couple years, it's felt more to me that we rezone and reapply things as necessary whenever something new comes up, and we don't stick to any kind of plan. And I think as a city, we need to have a very deliberate and thought out development plan, sustainability plan, to make sure that we are putting things where they need to go and not shoehorning larger instances into other neighborhoods because we all want an Olive Garden. Well, I'm not going to get an Olive Garden in my backyard. You don't want it in your backyard.
No, I would not want an Olive Garden in my backyard. Absolutely not.
And so we got to figure out, okay, we want this, but where do we put it? And I think we do have land available throughout the outskirts, perhaps, that we can use, and that if we stick to a plan, we make a plan, and we help developers realize that this land here is not in a neighborhood, but it's where you want to be, we can make that land be the development corridor. And that's over here by Howland and the Graves area, the activity center, I think they call it, by the Walmart out in 415. Like all these areas that have open land that's not in someone's backyard, I think should be the first place that things happen, so that we have this planned and deliberate development process, and not just someone comes in and says, I want to go over here, and we rezone it so they can go in there. Or for instance, someone buys 9 houses on Saxon and they put a gas station there, and now great, those 9 houses were empty and now they're not, but everyone who has a yard around those 9 houses now has a gas station in their backyard. I don't think they're happy about that. I wouldn't be.
Yeah, no, I definitely would not be happy about that either. So, you know, I think that that's something that residents and you know would appreciate, would to have that kind of plan, and not only have it so that it's available, but have a plan where we've actually had the opportunity to have some input into it. So, you know, I think that that's something that, you know, neighbors and residents would appreciate. So speaking of your neighbors and residents, just tell me, what do you think that your residents and neighbors, or our residents and neighbors don't know that you would like for them to know about you?
That's a good question. I'm still an active musician. I love playing music. I love going out to concerts, and you know, I'm more of a classic musician, so I'm doing the orchestra work and such. But I think, you know, and as cheesy as this may even sound, I always have this altruistic, very optimistic view of things around me, and I understand we have severe and very important problems to deal with, but I always know that there's a way around that, there's a way through those problems if we come together and work. I see a lot of people asking questions about, you know, what do you want to do, or what's your personal feelings about these topics. And what came to my mind, you know, is that really it's not about my personal wants and desires as a person when I'm running for mayor. It's about my elected responsibility, which is to say, you know, you may agree with my wanting something or not wanting something, but my responsibility, if elected, is to ensure that I represent everybody in Deltona, and we reach out to people and figure out, what does the majority want? Where do we move forward with them, and not just forget about the people in the minority of a decision, but how do we work together with both sides of an issue to find what's in the middle, right? Everybody wants to run to one side, plant a flag, and say, this is my issue and here I am, but I always feel like we can talk through other issues, and you have your flag over here, I have my flag over here, and if we both stand there, nothing will get done to anyone's, you know, satisfaction. If we come together and discuss all the way through this process, we can come up with a solution that maybe neither one of us ever thought about, if we just put the flag down and have a conversation and invite more people to that conversation. Well,
thank you so much for spending time with me today, Troy. I think that this has been a very helpful conversation, getting to know you and understand where you stand on some of the positions with Deltona. And I think that a lot of people are going to appreciate hearing from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Terri.